Trying to come up with a name. You have to have a name for a big play. Auburn, Alabama, kick six. It's getting a lot of run. The kick six game. I'm okay with that one. Simple to the point. How about Toomer's Revenge? Took down the tree, take down Alabama. I'll try to come up with a name there for... that's our poll question, the most bizarre finish of a game that you've ever seen. Update the poll results, and we'll bring in Peter King.
Auburn, Alabama is edging. The band is on the field.
Man, the band is... That's all you need to say is the band is on the field. I mean, you start there. That's
a crazier end to a game.
Yes.
I didn't mean to just sort of dive in.
Come on
there.
in, Pete.
That is a crazier end to a game. The band is on the field. But this, in sports history, has to be in competition for the most significant, crazy end of any sports event in American history.
What would rival it?
I don't know. I was thinking about this after I saw that. I was out to dinner with my wife Saturday night, so I didn't even see it till I get home. But I knew something big had happened because the two busboys at the restaurant, who are both Hispanic, were talking about it. And I said, "What happened?" And one of them goes, "Big play for Auburn." You know, they must have had a TV back in the kitchen. I don't know, but but then you get home and you see it and you say, that really is just think about this. This is a two-time national champion, 2 consecutive times, having to win this game to have a chance to win a third national championship, playing its arch rival. And the most unlikely, weird, bizarre, crazy ending to a game that you've ever seen, on a stage like that. And you just say that is historic. It's historic.
The significance of it is what puts it over the top. But as far as bizarre endings, the Immaculate Reception was bizarre.
Yes.
Flutie with a Hail Mary that helped him win the Heisman. The Music
Not
City
more
Miracle.
bizarre. A Hail Mary pass happens 5 or 6 times a year in major college and pro football. How many times does it happen that a game is decided by an attempted 57-yard field goal that's turned into a run the other way for a touchdown? I mean, I've seen that, I think, twice in my life.
I don't think it's ever happened to end a game.
No, that's the point.
Yeah.
I mean, that ended a potential national championship impact game. I thought it was just an unbelievable thing. And I just don't think you can. Now, I watched a lot of the Ohio State-Michigan game working at home Saturday afternoon. That was an incredible game.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. I was totally in favor of Hoke doing what he did at the end,
Yeah, I was too.
going for 2 because of the condition his team was in. They couldn't stop Ohio State. His quarterback's playing on one leg. A good decision. I mean, so the guy made a lousy pass. I mean, that's life. But, I mean, this topped it by about 10 times.
It's Peter King from the Monday Morning Quarterback, the mmqb.com, and Football Night in America joining us in studio. The formal introduction there. Who had the best weekend in the NFL?
I would say as an individual, Adrian Peterson, or maybe Josh Gordon. But as a team, I think the team that had the best day is the Philadelphia Eagles. And not that they played the best necessarily, but, now you see Nick Foles, who basically, he's 5-0 in games he started and finished. He is a legitimate threat. If it's week 17 at Dallas and it's Nick Foles against Tony Romo, I don't automatically say I'll take the Cowboys at all. Nick Foles is a really good player. So I thought it was a good day for them. But I also thought it was a very good day for the Denver Broncos because now, as I wrote this morning in my column, in the last 4 weeks, they've played teams now with a combined record of 32-16. In the next 4 weeks, they play teams with a combined record of 16-32.
Wow.
So they now have a 1-game lead on home field in the AFC. The Patriots still have to go to Baltimore for what will be a game that the Ravens have to have. And the toughest game probably for the for the Broncos is Tennessee on Sunday in Denver. So, I mean, you got to like Denver to win home field in the AFC, even though, and I wrote this last week, I don't know what that means. In the NFC, home field is everything. In the AFC, home field, I'm not saying it's meaningless, but how meaningful is it when Peyton Manning has this sub-zero problem, as most quarterbacks do, I think. And the one thing about that sub-zero record, by the way, I mean, and how he's not that good when it's 16 degrees and ice chips falling down from the sky. I mean, he's playing a lot of those games against Tom Brady. So, I mean, it's not like he's playing the Jacksonville Jaguars and it's 9 below zero.
Well, home field advantage would matter if he was with the Colts.
Correct.
But not in Denver.
No, I don't think it matters at all. In fact, if I were Denver, I'd have to ask myself seriously this question. Would I rather have my first playoff game at Indianapolis, which is now almost certainly not going to happen? Would I rather have my first playoff game at Indianapolis or home against Baltimore?
Well,
I mean, I'd rather be in a dome if I were them. But, again, that's not going to happen now.
Adrian Peterson goes over 10,000 yards. I was asking Tony Dungy last hour, how many yards do you think he ends up with? Given the way he runs for that offense, doesn't have a great quarterback. Tony said probably 15,000 yards when it's all said and done. Does he have any chance at Emmett?
It's interesting. In my column this week, I compared Calvin Johnson, who's now played 103 games, to Jerry Rice.
I saw those numbers.
Who's at 103. Calvin Johnson is significantly better. He's better by like 50 catches or something. But you also have to take into account the same thing for Emmitt Smith that you have to take into account for Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice caught over 950 balls after his 30th birthday. That's insane. That's insane. And if Mike Shanahan had kept him in Denver in that last year when Shanahan, did the humane thing and cut him, Jerry Rice was going to play until he got kicked out of the game. He got kicked out of the game by Mike Shanahan in Denver that last year. But I think with Emmitt Smith, because Emmitt Smith, you got to understand the one thing about him, Dan, is that Jimmy Johnson gave him an opportunity to gain those 18,000 yards, because when they were 17 points up with 6 minutes to go, Jimmy is feeding the crap out of Emmitt Smith, and he's letting him gain. I'd love to go back and figure it out someday. 14-point lead or better in the last 6 minutes of a game. How many yards did Emmitt Smith gain? I bet it's 1,500. I really do. I don't know that, but I think Jimmy Johnson did Emmitt Smith a big favor throughout his career. He was on a really good team with a good offensive line. Here, I'm going to do this for you, and then I want you to do this for me. So I think it's unlikely. My guess, if I were doing an over-under for him, I'd do 16,000. But Dan, he's a nutty guy. And he basically is just like Emmitt Smith. He wants to leave his footprints in the game.
I can see he doesn't have a quarterback. At least Emmett, you had to respect all the weapons that Troy had.
That's the whole difference here. And it's amazing to me.
8 in the box.
It's amazing to me that he's done as well as he has. I was saying last night, I forget, somebody at NBC, I could name Adrian Peterson Player of the Week in Monday Morning Quarterback 10 or 11 times a year. I could, because you watch the game and you say, the guy's amazing. I mean, it's like, I feel bad. I named Josh Gordon Offensive Player of the Week last week. So what am I going to do? Just do it again? No, I gave it to Alshon Jeffrey. But, the bottom line in this is I think that Peterson has proven in the last 2 years that he can be the greatest back in football by far without a quarterback.
We'll continue with Peter King from the MMQB.com. Peter King staying with us. The MMQB.com is the website. Must read for NFL fans. Also contributes to Sports Illustrated, Football Night in America. Paulie gave me the go-ahead in studio on Thursday in the man cave for the final 2 hours of the show to co-host Ron Burgundy.
That's great.
Ron Burgundy will join us.
That's good.
Yes. Does Will Ferrell know that Ron Burgundy is coming in?
It's like, remember Andy Kaufman and his character?
Yes.
What was the lounge singer name? Tony Clifton Jr.? They're never in the same place at the same time.
Okay, yes, he.
What are the chances that Shea doesn't call in that day?
Oh.
Let's just put it to rest right now
All
that
right.
Shane Irving is not actually Will Ferrell.
All right. No. Ron Burgundy will join us on Thursday in the Man Cave to co-host for the final 2 hours. Anybody else coming in from his news team?
His staff, his crew?
Yeah.
There are possibilities. There's a lot going on.
Okay. All right. So just found out. Ron Burgundy, final 2 hours on Thursday morning in the Man Cave. Peter King, kind enough to stay with us. Stay classy, Peter. Stay classy. All right. Mike Tomlin. Tony Dungy said he didn't do it on purpose. I said, okay.
I don't think it matters if he did it on purpose. Doesn't matter at all to me. Now, obviously, he's never going to, whether he did it on purpose or not, he's not going to admit that he did it on purpose if he did. But, and obviously that would make it worse. But whatever happened, let's say it was an absolute accident. To me, it doesn't matter at all. You can't be on the white stripe anyway, just because these officials are so lax that they're not calling it all the time. How incredible is it that you have two officials running that sideline, and it is a foul to be on the white stripe during a play. And yet he not only is on the white stripe, he's so far on the white stripe that he's got 1 foot on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane, first of all, that was not called a penalty. And secondly, I think the biggest thing that kind of bugs me about all this, I think that what the NFL has to do with all these officiating controversies, you got to officiate games one way. There's only one way. If a guy is far out on the white stripe, it's a foul. It's a call. You have to throw the flag. If, like last night in that game, I thought it was an absolute debacle at the end of that game where, Jeff Triplett's entire defense of what happened is that he can't stop the sacred clock. Well, does that mean that if the offensive team has no timeouts left, that you can't stop the clock for a measurement? That if it's close at all, which that was close, it wasn't painfully close, but you've got the side judge and the head linesman both saying that it's first down. And so it had to be somewhat close for them to both say it's a first down. So he's not going to measure when you've got two officials on your crew who think it's a first down. He doesn't. You got to stop the game, measure, or at least get it straight somehow. There was chaos at the end of that game, and it was ridiculous.
So what's the commissioner do or the NFL do to Mike Tomlin?
I think they give him a heavy fine, probably a 6-figure fine, and they tell him and they tell every coach in the league, you step on the white stripe when the balls are in play, we're going to throw the flag. And that's what they have to do now. Coaches have gotten away with stuff too long on that white stripe. You've got to call them now. And once they get a couple of flags, I wrote today, and I'm going to write this week about officials at the mmqb.com. I had a great, great week with Gene Sterator's crew 3 weeks ago. Spent the week sort of embedded with different guys on their crew, and then went to the game on Sunday in Chicago. The one thing, every day there were 15 things I said, I didn't know that. And one day, the head linesman, Wayne Mackey, who lives here in Queens, I'm at his house, and we're going over his job. I asked every guy in the crew, tell me about your job. And he says, I got to go to the head coach before the game, and I have to ask him, who's your get-back coach? And I said, what are you talking about, a get-back coach? He goes, there's a guy on every staff who basically is in charge. If I see that there's too much crowding on the sidelines, they're on the white stripe, I say, hey, get-back coach, you got to get him back. And then he has to get him back, or they're subject to a flag. And unfortunately, in Mike Tomlin's case, the get-back coach was asleep.
You mentioned this last night on Football Night in America. A couple of coaches, Leslie Frazier, maybe job. At least it's getting a little warmer.
I think he's on thin ice, but I think the guy who's in a little more trouble is Gary Kubiak. I mean, I think, and Mike Florio pointed this out last night, which I had totally forgotten about. when Kubiak signed his extension in Houston, he had the option of signing it through 2015, which I think the owner wanted, but Kubiak chose to only sign it through 2014. And if you're an owner of the team, I think you're saying, well, geez, is he trying to get out of here? Does he want to be a free agent? What, and I don't know what. I've never talked to Gary about that, so I don't know why he did that. But you can assume that maybe he's thinking, hey, maybe I can strike the gold rush, if I wait and we go to a Super Bowl. So, but anyway, I think that it would be very, very hard for him to keep his job, especially because he is the keeper of the quarterback, and his quarterback blew that season, at least when it still was a season. Matt Schaub, to me, is the person single most responsible for kind of the slide of that team when it was still relevant back in September and October.
Do you see John Gruden coaching next year in the NFL?
I think he's going to coach if there's a team that has a quarterback that he thinks he can win with and that offers him a job with a lot of money. I think Gruden will come back.
Is there a situation?
I thought it would be Dallas all along, but now it doesn't appear that it will be. I mean, I just thought that Dallas was a good option for him because they've got a quarterback. They got an owner who, most people I think a lot of coaches would be afraid of Jerry Jones or scared off by him or whatever. I think Gruden would love working for Jerry Jones. But, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, clearly, what if you're John Gruden and Bob McNair, the Houston Texans, comes to you and says, okay, we may not have a quarterback, but we got the first pick in the draft. You go do your ESPN special with Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota, all of these guys. You go do these guys. I never pronounce his name right, Mariota.
Yeah,
I never pronounce his name right. But you go do your special with all these quarterbacks, and then, hey, you can pick the one you want, and that'll be your quarterback for the next 5 years or whatever. But so I think Houston would be intriguing to a guy like Gruden because it's kind of a just add water, just add a quarterback and you can be competitive probably.
Before I let you go, the game tonight, how big is this? Bigger for Seattle or New Orleans?
I think it's probably a little bit bigger for New Orleans because clearly I think if New Orleans loses and they've got Carolina twice in the span of 15 days starting on Sunday, they not only are not going to win home field, but they might be the 5th seed instead of the 2nd seed, or the 6th seed. Who knows? Because, you look at the teams that right now are in the 5th and 6th slots, San Francisco, I mean, they got 4 losses. Are they going to lose any more? I mean, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think New Orleans, really, this is an important game. It's an important game for both teams, though. And I just think this is the kind of game that everybody's looking at the quarterbacks. I'm looking at Marshawn Lynch. I think this is a 28-29 carry night for Marshawn Lynch. They have to play clock ball and keep it away from Drew Brees with the problems they're having in the secondary in Seattle.
The website, themmqb.com. He's Peter King. Good to visit with you again, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.